There can be few symbols of heroism as powerful as that of St. George. A knight in shining armour, astride a white charger, a red cross on his shield, fighting a flame-breathing monster to save a princess tethered out as a sacrifice. And it comes all the more as a shock to find out who the real historical St. George was, and just how far removed he is from this image we have of him as a hero. The real St. George was born in Syria in the 3rd century in a fuller's shop. Very little is known about his early life. But in later life, by servile brown-nosing, he climbed his way up the social ladder until he got a very lucrative job providing the Roman army with bacon. But how he got his bacon was a different matter. He used very unscrupulous means, stealing a lot of it. When the army found out about this, he was driven out of Syria and utterly disgraced. He ended up in Alexandria, and he joined a strange sect called Arianism. They were a splinter sect of Christianity, but they didn't believe in the divinity of Christ. The Roman emperor at the time was a Christian, Constantinus. So zealous was George in his adopted religion that the emperor made him the Archbishop of Alexandria. He was a greedy and cruel man, and he taxed all the temples, pagan and Christian, beyond endurance. The people rose up and overthrew him, but the emperor's army reinstated him once again. But this status quo wasn't to last forever. Constantinus died and was replaced by the pagan emperor Julianus. Julianus knew just what to do with scum like George and threw him in prison. He only lasted in prison 24 days before a mob broke in, beat him to death and threw his worthless carcass into the sea. So our patron saint, the great hero St. George, was nothing but an underhanded pork swindler, a bacon bandit if you will. Not only did he become the patron saint of England, he's also the patron saint of Malta, Germany, horsemen and farmers. Not bad for a lowlife like him. And one wonders what had happened if he ever really met a dragon. He didn't become the patron saint of England until the 12th century. Before that there was a lot less glamorous Edward the Confessor. In later times, when Arianism became one again with the Mother Church, they brought George with them, and he became sainted. He wasn't a saint, as I've mentioned before, a patron saint of England until the 12th century, when Edward III took him on. Edward's original idea was to try and recreate King Arthur's Round Table, but for some reason he loved the idea of St. George, who was supposed to have appeared during the Crusades and urged the British knights on, rather like the Angel of Mons. The whole idea of the dragon didn't appear till much later. The story was tacked on. Basically it's a retelling of the old Greek legend of Perseus and Andromeda, given a new Christian twist. The real St. George, if he would have ever met a dragon in the flesh, would have certainly died of fright. But what of St. George's fiery foe, the dragon? It appears in every single culture on earth, from the Egyptians to the Aztecs, from the Pygmies in Central Africa to the Aborigines, from the Japanese to the North American Indians. Everyone in every culture has their own dragon. In the West, they're flame-spewing bat-winged monsters that bring death and destruction. In the Orient, they are beautiful, noble creatures whose breath condenses and forms rain. There are cave paintings of dragons dating back 25,000 years. Forget about demons, forget about vampires and werewolves, they're nothing. Johnny-come-latelys, minor monsters. compared to the original uber monster, the great-great-granddaddy of them all, the dragon. Could the dragon have had a basis in fact? Could there be some real, terrible, ancient and powerful creature behind these stories? The answer is yes, for the dragons reported even to this very day. Whilst in the Gobi deserts of Mongolia, I heard many stories about dragons being seen in the modern day. One man told me of a story passed on to him by his aunt. It happened just after World War II in the mountains of northern Mongolia. In a remote village, the people said they came across a dead dragon lying frozen in a river. It had snake-like scales and was over 100 feet in length. It was a very harsh winter, so the whole village survived by eating the flesh of the dead dragon. The thaws of spring then washed the carcass away. Elsewhere in the Gobi Desert, we heard a story of a doctor. This is not a nomad, not a peasant, but an educated man, a doctor from Ulaanbaatar, travelling around the desert, performing his art, saving lives, treating people, an educated man. At a place called Bulgan Sun, he swore that he'd seen a dragon coiled up in a well. He described it as having a horse or camel-like face, a long, green, scaly body and limbs. In China, the dragon still rears its head. In 2004, no less than 500 people saw a dragon leap from the waters of Lake Tianche, or Celestial Lake, in northern China. Once again, it was described as having a horse-like head, horns and a long snake-like body. Dragons are still reported all around the world, but mainly from Asia. These are very real creatures, and creatures that are still unknown to science.
Land of dopes and tories, game shows and TV. The land our fathers fought for don't seem the same to me. Something certainly different. Something must have changed, 'cause England's just an outpost for the terminally deranged. Land of dope and Tories, I don't see